A secret camera caught what no one was supposed to see in the guest room during. I used to think the worst kind of betrayal was a sharp, deliberate thing. A choice, a clean cut. But what happened between Adam and me, it was slower. It was 1,000 almost moments that bled into one unforgivable night. It started small. A movie. A bowl of popcorn. 2 people stranded in a too big house full of silence. Daniel had left that morning for another business trip, his kiss on my cheek cold and distracted, like he was already somewhere else. And Adam had stayed. He found me in the living room, fumbling with the TV remote, wearing leggings and an old sweater, my hair a mess. "Movie night?" he asked, flashing a crooked grin. I smiled back before I could think better of it. Sure, it felt harmless. It was harmless. Until it wasn't. The first movie ended. Then a second. The room grew darker, quieter. His thigh brushed against mine once, then again, and I told myself it meant nothing. But the heat of him was too close. His laughter lingered too long, and when I looked over at him, really looked, something passed between us like a current, dangerous and unseen. I should have moved. I should have stood up, turned on all the lights, laughed it off. Instead, I stayed, and somewhere deep inside me, a line started to tremble. The next day, we played cards in the kitchen. It was raining outside, the soft tapping against the windows filling the silence between our words. Adam dealt the cards, his fingers brushing mine each time he handed them over. Casual. Innocent. Except it didn't feel casual. It didn't feel innocent. Once, our hands touched for real, palm against palm, and neither of us pulled away immediately. He smiled then, a soft, knowing thing, and I laughed too loud, too high, sweeping the cards up and pretending I hadn't felt the spark. Pretending I hadn't noticed the way his eyes dropped to my mouth when I smiled. Pretending I wasn't starting to crave it. The third night, he found me on the back porch. The sky was a deep navy, the stars smothered by thick clouds. I wrapped a shawl around my shoulders, nursing a glass of cheap wine, staring into the dark. Couldn't sleep? Adam's voice was low, rough with something I couldn't name. No, I admitted. He sat beside me, close enough that our knees brushed. Neither of us moved away. For a while we said nothing, just listened to the night. You're different when he's gone, Adam said finally, so quiet I almost missed it. I turned to him. Different how? He shrugged, but there was something in his eyes, a sadness, a hunger, that made it hard to breathe. You laugh more, he said. You exist more. The way he said it split me open. I looked away, blinking fast. You should go inside, I whispered. You want me to? The question hung between us, heavy and dangerous. I couldn't answer. After a moment, he stood. For one heart-stopping second, he leaned down, brushed a strand of hair from my face. His fingers skimmed my cheekbone, warm and calloused. I closed my eyes. When I opened them, he was gone. But the burn of his touch lingered long after. The fourth night, he brought a board game into the living room. Thought you could use a rematch, he said with a teasing grin. I laughed, grateful for the illusion of normalcy. We played sprawled out on the rug, the fire crackling low in the fireplace. His knee bumped mine again and again, each time staying a little longer. At one point, I reached for a piece and his hand covered mine. We froze. I looked up and found him already watching me. The air shifted, thickened. Neither of us spoke. Neither of us moved. Somewhere deep inside, I knew. We were standing at the edge of something. One step, and there would be no going back. Good game, I said, forcing a laugh, yanking my hand back like it burned. His smile was slow, sad. Yeah, he murmured. Good game. But we both knew the game we were playing had nothing to do with cards or boards. That night, Lying awake in my bed, I could still feel the ghost of his touch on my skin. I stared at the ceiling, heart pounding, knowing that whatever this was, whatever we were becoming, it wasn't innocent anymore. It wasn't harmless. And it was only a matter of time before the line between us would vanish completely. After that night on the porch, something between Adam and me shifted permanently. It wasn't just the way he looked at me anymore. It was the way I looked at him. I noticed everything. The way his shoulders stretched the fabric of his t-shirts when he reached for a mug from the top shelf. The way a drop of water slid down his neck after his evening showers. The way his laugh cracked through the sterile quiet of the house like sunlight through dirty glass. And he noticed me too. Little things at first. When I laughed, he leaned closer, almost imperceptibly. When I frowned, he brushed my hand with his fingers, tentative but electric. When I looked tired, he pressed a warm cup of coffee into my hands without a word, his knuckles brushing mine like a whisper. It felt natural. Too natural. And it was killing me slowly. Daniel noticed too. Not the touches, not the glances, but the tension, the atmosphere. One night at dinner, he set his fork down harder than necessary, the sharp clatter making me flinch. "You two spend a lot of time together," he said casually, his voice too even, his smile brittle. Adam didn't miss a beat. He shrugged, casual. Better than being alone. Daniel's eyes shifted to me, sharp and cold. "You're not too old for teenage games, are you?" The room froze. I forced a laugh, weak and hollow. "It's nothing like that," I said too quickly. He studied me for a long moment, then nodded, almost to himself. That night, I noticed something new in the corner of the living room, a small black box nestled between photo frames. A camera. The next day, I found another one, this time hidden behind a plant in the kitchen. One more in the hallway. Tiny, discreet. He hadn't said anything, but he didn't need to. He didn't trust me. Maybe he didn't even know why yet. But he felt it, the way animals sense an oncoming storm. Just like Adam and I did. I told myself to be careful, to put space between us. Instead, I became reckless. Maybe it was the way Adam lingered after dinner, the way he let his fingers brush against mine when he passed me the plates. The way his voice dropped to a softer register when we were alone, intimate and secretive. Maybe it was the way he leaned against the counter while I cooked, watching me with a look that made my knees weaken. Maybe it was the way he moved closer, little by little, like gravity itself was shifting. Whatever it was, it dragged me deeper every day. One night, Daniel left for a late meeting. Adam and I found ourselves in the backyard again. The night air was heavy, charged, like the clouds overhead. We lay side by side on the cool grass, not touching, but so close I could feel the heat from his body. Sometimes, he said quietly, "I wish we could just disappear." I turned to him, heart pounding. Disappear where? Anywhere. Somewhere no one knows us. Somewhere we can be. He trailed off. "Be what?" I whispered. He didn't answer. Instead, he reached out, his fingers grazing the back of my hand, feather-light, a question and a confession all at once. And I didn't move. I didn't even breathe. Later that week, Daniel cornered me in the kitchen. "You know I love you," he said, studying me like a specimen under glass. I nodded, throat tight. "But you seem distracted." I forced a smile. "Just tired." "Tired," he repeated, like he was testing the word on his tongue. "You should rest more. Maybe take some time for yourself." I swallowed hard. "Maybe?" He leaned in then, kissed my cheek. "And don't worry about the cameras," he said softly. "They're just for protection." Protection. From what? From whom? The touches became bolder. One night, while Daniel was upstairs working, Adam brushed past me in the kitchen. His hand slid across the small of my back, slow and deliberate. I dropped the spoon I was holding. The clatter was deafening in the stillness. Adam murmured, "Sorry," his voice rough, his breath stirring the hair at my temple. I couldn't even answer. Couldn't breathe. Another night, we watched a movie after Daniel went to bed. Adam sprawled lazily on the couch, his shirt riding up slightly to reveal a sliver of taut skin. I tried to focus on the screen, but I could feel his gaze burning into me. Halfway through, he shifted, his thigh pressing firmly against mine. He didn't move away. Neither did I. The air was thick enough to choke on. At one point, I laughed at something on the screen. He laughed too. Our eyes met. And in that split second, the world tilted. His hand found mine, fingers tangling, palms sweaty. I should have pulled away. I didn't. Because when he was near, I remembered what it felt like to truly exist. Because around him, I was seen in a way I had forgotten. Because in his presence, the loneliness I carried grew a little quieter. One afternoon, Daniel packed a bag for a conference. "I'll be back Sunday night," he said, slinging his suit jacket over his shoulder. Adam lingered behind him, silent and still. When the front door closed, the silence inside the house changed. It wasn't the soft, aching silence of loneliness anymore. It was sharp, electric. I turned to Adam. He was already looking at me, and in his eyes, I saw the truth neither of us could deny anymore. We were standing on the edge of a cliff, battered by wind, staring down at the jagged rocks below. One step, just one, and we would fall. In the corners of the house, the cameras blinked, watching, waiting. But it was already too late. We were already lost. The house felt different that weekend. The silence wasn't empty anymore. It was expectant, breathless. Daniel was gone. No hurried goodbyes this time, just a cold kiss on my temple, the brush of his hand on my shoulder, a gesture that felt rehearsed, hollow, and then the low hum of his car fading into the night. I stood by the window long after the taillights disappeared, my palms sweating against the glass. I told myself I would be careful. I told myself nothing would happen. But lies are easy to tell when you're the only one listening. It started simply, innocently even. Dinner. Adam cooked. Grilled chicken, roasted vegetables, garlic bread from scratch. He moved through the kitchen with a confidence that was disarming, sleeves rolled up, the line of his forearms flexing under the warm kitchen light. The dining table was set for two. A candle flickered low between us, its light catching the sharp angles of his jaw, the curve of his mouth. We ate in silence. Not awkward silence. Heavy silence. Expectant. Our feet brushed once under the table. Then again. Then deliberately. When I reached for my wine, his fingers caught mine, holding, lingering. The heat of his touch traveled up my arm, igniting something buried so deep it should have been dead. I didn't pull away. I didn't speak. I just stared at him, feeling the moment stretch tight between us like a wire ready to snap. When I stood to clear the plates, my hands trembled. Adam was suddenly behind me, too close, the air between us electrified. His hand brushed my hip as he reached around me for a glass, and I gasped a soft, helpless sound that made him freeze. "Are you sure?" he whispered, his breath hot against my ear. I should have said no. I should have run. Instead, I turned and closed the distance between us. The first touch was tentative, almost uncertain, a breath of a beginning. The second was heavier, full of everything we hadn't said aloud. The plates clattered to the floor, forgotten. He lifted me onto the counter, hands gripping my thighs, and I clung to him like a drowning woman. When he carried me toward the guest room, I buried my face in his neck, breathing him in salt and soap and something uniquely him. The door slammed shut. The world fell away. The space between us disappeared, the weight of everything unsaid crashing into the inevitable. That night, we crossed a line we could never pretend away. A choice made in the silence, heavy and irreversible. In that moment, the distance between us shattered completely, and for the first time in years, I felt truly alive. I was alive. I was whole. I was seen. We moved together in frantic, desperate rhythms, every kiss, every touch a silent apology for all the years lost to loneliness. In his presence, all the quiet wounds I had hidden came undone. When I came undone beneath him, it wasn't just release. It was surrender. I wrapped my arms around him tightly, holding on like he was the last solid thing in a world unraveling. Neither of us noticed the small, blinking red light in the corner of the room, recording everything, immortalizing every forbidden touch. The next morning, the world felt wrong. The air was too still, the light too sharp. Adam was still asleep, arms slung over my waist, his face peaceful in a way that made my heart ache. I slid out of bed carefully, gathering my clothes, my shame, my fear. Downstairs, I made coffee with trembling hands. I scrubbed the counters, washed dishes that were already clean, rearranged the living room, throw pillows again and again. Nothing could cleanse what we'd done. At noon, Daniel texted, "Flight delayed. Home tomorrow morning instead of tonight." I sagged against the counter, closing my eyes in momentary relief. One more night to pretend. One more night to figure out how to live with myself. I didn't know then that fate had already made other plans. At 3 a.m., the front door creaked open. I was still sitting at the kitchen table, staring blankly at a cold cup of coffee. Daniel stepped inside, suitcase thudding quietly against the tile. He looked exhausted, or maybe just hollow. He crossed to me and pressed a perfunctory kiss to my head. I flinched. He noticed. I saw it in the flicker of his eyes. "Couldn't sleep?" he asked casually. "Restless," I whispered. He nodded, set down his laptop, booted it up without ceremony. "Had a few motion alerts," he said lightly. "Probably nothing." My blood ran cold. He opened the camera feed, scrolled past the kitchen, past the living room, past the empty hallway, stopped at the guest room, clicked. The video started to play. First a still room, then the door opening, then us. Adam pushing me against the wall, me wrapping my legs around his hips. Our mouths desperate, greedy, starving. Daniel didn't move, didn't breathe. He watched every second in silence, his face unreadable, his hands so still it was terrifying. I tried to speak. My mouth opened, closed. No sound came out. When the video ended, he calmly closed the laptop, turned to me, smiled. Not the smile of a husband. The smile of a man with nothing left to lose. "Go to bed," he said, his voice a blade wrapped in silk. "You'll need your strength." The next morning was a slow-motion nightmare. Daniel brewed coffee, made breakfast, set the table for 3. Adam came down, rubbing sleep from his eyes, oblivious. Daniel greeted him warmly. "Morning, son. Sleep well." Adam blinked, nodded. "Good," Daniel said, his voice smooth, almost too calm. "You're going to need your energy." He set down a manila envelope between us. I knew without opening it what was inside. Evidence, captured without words, laid bare between us, enough to leave no room for denial. My betrayal frozen in time. Daniel leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. "You have 2 choices," he said. "You need to leave," he said, voice hollow. "Both of you. Tonight." He turned his cold gaze to Adam. "Or you can stay and watch everything fall apart even further," he said, voice sharp and quiet. "My lawyer." The blood drained from my face. Adam stood, shaking. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm so sorry." Daniel laughed, a harsh, joyless sound. "You don't even know what sorry is yet." He rose from the table slowly. "Pack. Both of you. Now. No screaming. No violence. Just cold, inevitable distance." By nightfall, Adam was gone. I stayed long enough to watch his car disappear down the street. Then I turned back to the house, to Daniel, to the ruins of everything I thought I knew. He sat on the couch, staring through me like I was a memory already fading. There was no anger left, just exhaustion. And the worst part? I didn't even blame him.